Ladies and gentlemen, I am Andrei Shevchenko on behalf of the Mediacentr Ukraine Укрінформ agency. I welcome everybody who tells the world about our time for freedom. Today's guest is Артем Іллюхін, the colonel, the commander of the 4th Rapid Reaction Brigade of National Guard of Ukraine Rubіж. We'll be talking about the advancing guards. This is what we call the assault brigades, the units that are being formed now. These assault units will get engaged in special missions. Colonel, the floor is yours. Will you tell us at what stage the advancing guards are being formed now? Welcome, everybody. The commander of the 4th Rapid Response Brigade of the National Guard of Ukraine, Rubіж. Answering your question, as for the brigades that are being formed of these advancing guards, there are a number of brigades. They are the brigades of special assignments. They have been formed according to the principle of assault brigades at the National Guard of Ukraine. Currently, we are establishing such brigades as ours, the 4th Brigade of the Operative Assignment and the 1st Brigade, and the 3rd one as well. They are all working in the framework of the National Guards of Ukraine. Questions from the floor. But before those, what are the primary assignments that your brigades are facing? The tasks that we are facing are the same as we faced during the beginning of the Russian aggression. We are talking about the assault assignments, advancing and offensive campaigns carried out by the brigades of the special assignments. According to the concept of the development of such forces, we have a broader staff, and the personnel will include people able to operate the Western weaponry. So we are now looking for and expecting Ukrainian patriots willing to liberate our occupied territories. For a non-military man, a person who doesn't know what it all means in practice, what is the specific purpose of your brigade? What's the difference in training? As for the training of the personnel is the following. When we talk about the National Guards of Ukraine, our units are being formed at the level of the battalion, and then we get into the process of training, personal training of every infantry, and in parallel, we are preparing the NGOs and officers in a parallel process. We will be training the snipers, the submachine gun operators. This training will take up to 2 weeks, following the training in the unit, at the unit level. Then units level are trained in a battle-like environment, and then we go to the level of regiment. It will be followed by the tactical firing, and then we are talking about the agreement of action at the level of battalion. Personal training will also be followed by the action of the staff at the level of decision-making according to the NATO member standards. According to our expertise that we have gained so far, and since the beginning of the 24th of February, we'll take on board everything we know. The information that we saw at first was to the effect that in the future, you will be assigned to advance to the temporarily occupied territories in the east of Ukraine. In terms of training, what does that mean? Will you be engaged in training, specific training, or there are other things that we should be aware of? Now, to be sure, the training of the advancing forces is different from those who are on defense. This all is included into the different stages, beginning with the smaller tactical groups up to the level of the units, and they, as I said, units and regiments. Questions from the floor?
One moment. We'll make sure we get the translation.
Steve Kleiman, Pacific Rex. Will there be an international component at all to the new formations that includes foreign fighters and not just Ukrainians?
Дякую за гарне запитання.
This is a very good question. Now, the units that will be talking specifically about the 4th Brigade that I am honored to be a commander of, called the Rubіж. We have gone so far, a number of trainings over the years, including Rapid Trident back in 2016, in 18, and Rapid Trident 2021. In the framework of the beginning training of JPG with our partners, and of course, we were working as the part of the 23rd Motorized Brigade. That is to say, the commanders of the 23rd Brigade were given the orders, and they would give those orders to us. It should be noted as well that the personnel of our brigade has been formed on the basis of the NATO standards, meaning that the battalions are structured according to the NATO standards, and we are very close working to the MPD system. The regiment level is working at the TLB level. Currently, the top military brass of this country are working on the project to send our personnel abroad to be trained. National Guard is still in the line, and we are waiting for the time to go abroad to get trained. But there are a number of instructors who have been taught abroad, and they will be training our units. And there was another question whether you were planning to engage foreign soldiers as the rest of the Ukrainian armed forces do. Yeah, there is an order by the president, it has been approved, on the system of recruiting foreigners to serve in the Ukrainian armed forces. It began with the foreign part, and we are working now on the project to get engaged foreigners as to be able to serve in the Ukrainian armed forces. We have a number of applications, and I will tell you that there were other people from other countries working with us, but as for the specific contracts, apart from the Foreign Legion, there were a number of projects that were developed by the commanders to include foreigners to serve under the command of the National Guard of Ukraine. In our expertise, we worked in our battle activities, the demobilized foreigners from the British Army, Australians, Canadians, and there are a number of personnel waiting to be called to the National Guard of Ukraine from the United States. There is a question from the Укрінформ agency. They would like to hear how the process of mobilization is going on, which brigade of this advancing guards is more popular than others, where people apply from, what kind of regions people apply from. Now, of course, I will trump the unit that I am commander of, but that doesn't make sense. We are all equal. The only thing I would like to note is this. Since our brigade was the first one to be formed according to the NATO standards, and we began working that since late 2015, we have participated in a number of exercises. We were engaged in the first line of the defense at the Joint Operation Forces. So there are other units that are being established now, and they have brought up to the level of our 4th Brigade. What does that mean? All the battalions have been structured according to the S structure, S1, S2, and so on. The decision-making process, military decision-making, according to the NATO standards. Now, of course, we analyze and synchronize all the standards of decision-making in the major system of the Ukrainian Armed Forces battalion down to regiment. And after the full-scale aggression of Russian Federation, this has taken a new urgency. Will you describe a typical warrior that joins you? This is a citizen of Ukraine willing to defend his or her country, highly motivated to liberate the occupied territories by the enemy. On average, we are talking about people of 30 to 35 years old. There are younger people, and there are older people. But those who are older, say north of 40 years, 40 to 45 years old, we select them according to the specific knowledge and expertise that they have acquired. We are looking at those who have been serving in the Ukrainian armed forces, for example, the driver of the tank of the specialist that is well aware in the warfare, electronic warfare. Of course, such people will likely be engaged in our brigade. As for the offensive campaign, this is an active role of the military. We are changing our places all the time. People should be aware of the fact that he is to keep on with all the challenges of the battle life. They should be very well fit. They should be ready to die, to suffer all the coldness, all the heat. In other words, what we call the autonomous regime of action for up to 72 hours. But not all people are that fit to carry out such tasks. What kind of number of personnel we are talking about? Are you talking about the people available now or those that are being called up? This is a sensitive information, of course, but I will tell you that up to now we have received more than 2,000 of applications through different information channels. First of all, this is the official site of the NGU, the hotline, and the centers for rendering administrative services, where people can apply for a specific brigade. We are also actively working with the military call-up centers according to the order of the commander of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. We are working with the National Guards of Ukraine and National Police. So the military call-up centers are providing us information about the people willing to get engaged with our brigade. If there are no more questions, my question will be the last one. In simple words, you are asked, what's the difference between your brigades and other brigades? What is the specific of your warriors, their motivation? In simple, in plain language, how would you explain the specifics of your assault brigade as opposed to other brigades? In plain language, one will have to show up at our unit, spend some time with us, talk to our warriors and soldiers. You will understand everything. In a nutshell, we are talking about a citizen of Ukraine, a military personnel willing to work with us, but they should live up to a number of our internal standards. They should be ready to kill the enemy until the last rushes. They should be aware that the trip will take as long as the end of the war, and they also should be aware that the war is over once we have liberated all our territory. The commander of the 4th Brigade of the Special Forces of Ukraine, Rubіж, Артем Іллюхін, we thank you for all the information about the assault brigades of the National Guard of Ukraine and about the advancing guards. The journalists are invited to follow our agenda, Stand with Ukraine.